live. Thank you, John. Oh, hey, we got the four-leaf clover. Awesome. Welcome to today's meeting. My audio is going to start about now. Here we go. Welcome to today's meeting, March 17. We are going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. And today we do celebrate St. Patrick's Day, but we... All right. What was that again, Chuck?
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, right. I wish I could say that, but here we go. It is the top of the morning, but we, as Rotarians, we should always observe the four-way test in everything that we think, say, and do in our everyday lives. And that's one, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And before we get into our reflections of four-way test, someone just jumped on. Lawrence Moss, you've been called out. So welcome,
Right.
welcome, Larry. How are you?
Top of the morning to you.
We couldn't wait for you. Sorry.
You got caught in traffic again.
You got caught in
Take it
traffic.
from the top.
There we go. Okay, I start all over again. Welcome, everybody. No, can't do that. All right, we're going to have John Mertz do the four-way test reflection.
Good morning. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of the year that has passed and opportunities to render our service to our community today and in the days ahead. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft on your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, that was a very timely one. Amazing. Tonight, we are going to, if you can stop the share real quick. Thanks again, John. Tonight, we're going to have our four-way test contest, which starts at 6:30 this evening. I have Phil Janke on. Phil, can you let us know a little bit about what to expect tonight?
Oh, absolutely. This is you do not want to miss event. It is our annual four-way test speech contest, and we'll have students from Christopher Doc, or for Doc Mennonite Academy as it is known now. We have 3 contestants this evening. They'll be giving their four-way test speech on an ethical issue. It'll be roughly an hour, and it said, please zoom in. I'll say thanks to Even Mahanat for providing us some additional video, which we will be putting together with it. We'll have our speeches. We'll have also a little insight about Rotary from Dan and from Larry as it comes together. So you should have gotten the link. You'll be able to come on in. The people who will be helping with the competition, I'll ask that you zoom in, I'll say about 15 minutes early. And I don't know will we go to a little separate breakout room for that, Dan, so that we can speak privately prior to students getting there and other people.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, please join us this evening. You will not be disappointed.
Definitely. Yeah, we've had some amazing students in the past, and I know this is going to be an amazing year, just even hearing some of the other presentations that have been done at other clubs. All right. Welcome everybody who's on. Let's see if we have any guests. Mohana, you are you're like an eternal guest. Thank you for joining from North Penn. Mohana from North Penn Club. Anyone else on as a guest? I'm running through. No. All right. Welcome. All right. There you are. Welcome on. All right. So we have today's speaker. Let me pull this up. Sorry. Today's speaker is Suzanne Owens, Peter Becker, President and CEO. Suzanne was hired as President and CEO of Peter Becker Community in January of 2015. She has over 23 years of experience into the management and senior living communities. Suzanne has been active for years in advocating for residents' rights at both state and national level through senior living associations. She's passionate about providing quality customer service for all residents and guests of Peter Becker community. Her goal at Peter Becker is to ensure the community remains a wonderful place to live and work. Suzanne is going to talk to us today about life during COVID at Peter Becker and give us a little insight on her experiences. Suzanne, you are on.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As you can imagine, it's been a quite interesting year. I think in so many ways, our community represents like a little microcosm of everything everybody else is experiencing in our own little environment. We're almost like our own little town. I think last March, right around this time, when I heard, as all of you would have heard, out in Washington State, the fact that a nursing home had COVID running rampant through it, I really hoped beyond hope that they were just really bad at infection control and that it went wild through their community because of that. And I just hoped and hoped that if you really did everything that we all know how to do, put in place really great infection control standards and do things that you could somehow avoid going through the challenge. But as it grew throughout the country, I think we all saw that wasn't true, that it really went everywhere and that there was so little that anyone could do. And we laugh now sometimes about the fact that where did this taking temperatures come from? We take temperatures of every single person that comes in and out of our building every single day. And yet probably in the past year that we've been doing that, I don't know if we caught anybody that had a temperature that had any COVID. So was that just because the Chinese did it? They walked around taking temperatures. And so, even the people that did have COVID, we didn't figure it out by the fact that they had a temperature. So it's been an odd year. Right around this time last year, we had to make really challenging decisions. I can remember sitting in a dark room with our medical director and our clinical staff, a lot of our leaders, and saying, we have to shut down. We have to shut down to all visitors. We have to close dining. We have to do these things. And I absolutely was opposed to that. I sat in the room saying, no, I can't do that. I can't keep people from seeing their family. I can't. It's just mind blowing to me to think that we would do that. And I literally had to leave that meeting and go home and think about it for hours, and probably about midnight, started emailing people and saying, yes, that is what we have to do. We're gonna shut down tomorrow morning. And shut down, I went in and shut all the dining rooms and literally had people running around jumping, trying to figure out how to get people food without having dining rooms open. And then literally hours after we had done that, I think Governor Wolf started shutting down Montgomery County, which I think you all remember. We were among the first to shut down because it was so bad. But we had to figure out during that time frame, what do we really do? What's our role in protecting our community? And so we tried to create an environment that we would protect all our residents and our employees, and we would try to keep them from going to the grocery stores or going anywhere outside of our community that they didn't need to. So we created our own grocery store. First, we started taking orders and running to the grocery store for people. And then we realized that wasn't very practical for all the people we had living here, 500 people. So then we actually created a grocery store within our community that people could just order either online or call, and we would put the order together and deliver it to their cottage or apartment. We actually had access to food because if you can imagine, even though the grocery stores didn't have everything you were looking for, our food vendors tend to be university and restaurant vendors. And so they had tons of product sitting on their shelves because universities were all closed and restaurants were all closed. So we were able to stock our grocery store, and we really created a whole way to keep people safe. We had takeout meals. We encouraged employees. We gave huge discounts on buying groceries in-house for employees and residents. We had takeout meals. I would go shopping over in our cafe grocery store before I'd go home at night, so that I didn't need to go to a grocery store and have exposure. Daily, I think during all that time, we had to come out with new standards. Employees can't go out of state to Virginia. Then the next day we had to add, every state. Well, you remember Governor Wolf was changing it every single day. And so literally, I think almost daily for months, we had to figure out how to interpret state, national guidelines to figure out what new things we had to put in place. It was quite frustrating. I think some of the real challenges at the beginning, in many ways, the state was actually against us. And I'll say that, I would say it directly to the Department of Health if I had the opportunity. We at one point heard from the hospitals that if we did not accept a positive COVID person from the hospital, if we declined to accept someone, that they were told by the Department of Health that they would have to report us. And we knew that we had no ability to do that safely. We did not have the appropriate personal protective equipment. We had no way that we felt comfortable doing that. We felt that it could cause all of our current residents risk, potentially death. And yet here's the state of Pennsylvania saying that we are required to do this and they will report us. So we had to get attorneys involved to say, what do we do? And the attorneys advise us. It's funny to think back about it now, said, no, you do what you do best and you make decisions based on what you know. And if you believe you cannot do it safely, you refuse and let somebody do something about it. But you do not accept somebody that you do not feel comfortable. And so at that point, all of the local communities really got together and started meeting weekly to really try to talk about how to get through this together. So the CEO from Living Branches, from Telford Living, for Telford Lutheran Meadowood, we all get together at that time with all our medical directors every Friday afternoon and spend hours trying to understand what's going on, what's changing, how do we keep people safe, how do we fight back against all this craziness to keep, our residents safe, to get, even in that time when the state was wanting us to take people with COVID, we didn't have any equipment. We couldn't do it. And they kept saying, well, when you get a COVID positive person, we'll send you stuff. Well, I feel really good about that. No. In the end, COVID did hit our community, and it hit in a way that you can imagine did not meet any of the guidelines. Nothing about it was like it said on the news. We took temperatures 3 times a day for all our residents in skilled nursing and personal care. We looked for every sign and documented every day on every single resident if we saw any sign of any of the COVID symptoms that they were putting on the newspaper every day that we should be looking for. Well, when our first COVID case in April, mid-April, we actually had a nurse practitioner that was in our building decide for some reason to do a COVID test on a gentleman that just wasn't eating as much as he typically ate. He seemed lethargic and he was already on hospice, but I'm not sure even what made her do that. And then the same day she did a test on another person who I think had lost weight, just no COVID symptoms. And those 2 tests came back positive. We were floored. We were absolutely shocked. None of us, including the person who had the test ordered, none of us believed that any tests would come back positive. And based on that, we decided, well, we were going to test everyone in the hall that lived in the entire hall near them. And the next day, every single person in that hall came back positive. So here we had 0 symptoms. We had no way of knowing how anything got in. We had nobody, no employees, nobody test positive. Of course, tests weren't very easy to get at that point either. But, and so then we tested more people in skilled and additional people. So it just was like a horrible nightmare whirlwind. We had to create a special, we had tried to create this special wing that when we got our one person on the campus, this is how we imagined it would all come about. We would have one person that somehow would get COVID, and we had this hall that we put up these barriers, these plastic barriers, and we would move the person back in that room, and we would do all these things. Well, then when we had this whole big hallway with everybody COVID, it changed everything. And we literally had to just shut down. Nobody could go in and out of skilled nursing. We had to isolate people that had to take food, had to go outside and go around and leave things at doors. I mean, it was incredible. And we had staff that at first said, you know, I'm going to quit. I don't want to work here. I don't want to be around COVID. In the end, those same people were the ones who a day later, after having it really sink into their hearts and understand how much they care about those residents, they were the ones who volunteered to actually be in a small wing that we created of people that really did develop COVID symptoms, you know, the illness that goes along with it. So we had a lot positive, but most of the positive never got symptoms. But in the hallway where people had symptoms, were ill, we had staff in hazmat suits, full hazmat suits, head encapsulated. I mean, you've seen it on TV. You have this little goggles that you can look out, gloves, feet, everything covered. And they worked in that wing with those residents, which was a tremendous gift to those residents as they were sick. To have the nurses, to have the staff that had worked with them for years, that knew them, to have them care for them. So we did have 12 individuals die. Many of those, as you've heard on the news, were people that were on hospice that did have pretty significant health challenges, which is why it hits skilled nursing much broader than anything else. But that was a very challenging time for all of us to go through, something that, you know, you can imagine how depressing it is to all the infection control nurses, to myself, to everyone who thinks we tried to do everything we possibly could to keep people safe. And here, you know, we didn't even know how it got in. We couldn't even find the source because nobody ever had any symptoms of any kind. We were very, very fortunate. A total of 40 residents in skilled nursing had COVID. We did have 12 die. Everyone else recovered, and we have not, knock on wood, had any additional cases since then, and that was in mid-April. We've prayed about it every day, quite honestly, and been grateful and try to continue to do. We've been pretty rigid. We've been pretty rigid. I was on a call last week with other CEOs from other communities across Pennsylvania that we associate with that are Church of the Brethren or Mennonite, and finding that Peter Becker in a lot of ways was more rigid than other communities. We didn't allow visitors during this second surge into residential living dining rooms for a long time. We just opened last week, and I didn't realize that other communities were allowing visitors in. We just really held tight. We've had to devise communication systems through all of this. As you can imagine, here we are on a Zoom call. Nobody ever did Zoom calls right before COVID. And we've had to, people are working at home. Everyone's doing everything different. Well, you can imagine we had to completely figure out how to communicate. So when it first all started happening, we put out a daily newsletter on updates related to COVID. Here's what you can't do today. Here's what you can't, it was just happening so fast. And we were trying to help people enjoy life still, trying to help, we'd have jokes on our daily communication things and puzzles and treat days that we would deliver pretzels to everyone's door and stuff, trying to figure out how do we keep everybody's spirits up as we shut down and don't let people go to activities or do things that really are who we are. We ended up now, we continue to have weekly TV shows, internal TV shows that I address the community and try to answer any questions anybody has. And we have a weekly Zoom with all the families of skilled nursing and personal care to communicate everything. So we've really continued to evolve and figure out how to be, everything we can. Now, the great news is that the CDC came out last week with great news that people that are vaccinated have all this freedom now. Well, you can imagine we really are our own little microcosm community here, because 98% of the residents, the residential living residents at Peter Becker, have been fully vaccinated, have had both shots, and have gone over the 2 weeks and can eat together and play cards together and do everything without masks and be very comfortable. So that's very different than the community, where you couldn't feel comfortable going out to a restaurant and sitting near a bunch of people. I had dinner in our Garden View restaurant last night, and there were about 80 people enjoying lobster night last night. And because everyone's fully vaccinated, there's, in many ways, we're back to normal in a smaller way, maybe normal. So sort of protecting ourselves from the outside coming in a little bit, but able to really have people get together. We did some exciting things during this. We had worked with Arcadia University and created some research on creating clusters. Am I talking too long? Creating clusters as a way for people to continue to interact. So if you can imagine, if you have a person who's widowed, living at Peter Becker, and if you say you're supposed to isolate, you're not supposed to interact with everybody, well, that's not right. The rest of us have, a spouse or children that we're having dinner with at night. So we created a cluster concept that you could pick up to 5 or 6, total 6 in the cluster, so 5 other people, and that you could eat with them, you could play cards with them, you could do things with them, so that you continued to feel as if you had a family, you had a life, you could get through this. So we're just wrapping up that research with Arcadia University to see, did people feel like that was a great thing that really helped them get through this? But we tried to really just think of everything we could do. Many of you probably have heard that all retirement communities, skilled nursing, have had a major financial hit through this. That's no surprise. I can't even tell you that we know exactly how much revenue we lost, but a few million. The good news is we also have been getting money from the federal government that sometimes just arrives in our bank accounts, and we say, oh, where'd this $200,000 come from? And then we realized the federal government sent it to us. So we're still trying to figure out where that levels out, but some of the losses have absolutely been covered by money, and we still have huge expenses. We're testing, COVID testing all of our employees. We were every single week. That was costing us $12,000, $15,000 a week to test our employees. So you can imagine the expenses we've gone through, all this equipment, all this. So we're really evaluating that and trying to kind of I guess when all the dust settles and we're past the rest of this, we'll fully know the effect of that. But right now, all is really good. We are having a big celebration tonight for St. Patrick's Day. Again, all of our fully vaccinated residents that can enjoy life together, and that feels really, really good.
That's great. Well, thanks for your service. I don't know if anyone has said this to you. Thank you, Suzanne, for your service.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys did the right thing. Yes, we do have a question. Randy.
Yeah, Suzanne, first of all, thank you. My mother is in the skilled unit there, Sarah Moyer.
Yes.
And
yes.
thank you for keeping her safe. I know she had a miserable year with, but I'm going to be visiting her today, this afternoon.
Good.
So, you know, that's first time I'll be able to visit her in quite a while.
We're so happy to be able to welcome visitors back. Yes.
And thank you for, I kept reassuring her. I says, Mom, all these restrictions are to keep you safe. And, you know, after a while that didn't work, but, you know, fortunately she can, you know, get have visitors now and things. So thank you.
It's been a terrible thing to not have visitors for people.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine, well, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas, we weren't allowed to have any visitors in at all because we had a positive COVID staff person just right before the holidays. And we had to, that was terrible. The residents had to eat in their rooms. They couldn't go out and eat with anybody. I just kept thinking, okay, the vaccines are right down the road. The vaccines are down the road and it's going to make a difference. And it has. The vaccines are here. Everyone's vaccinated. 100% of people in skilled nursing got vaccinated. And that makes a huge difference.
Definitely.
Thank
Chuck.
you.
Oh, thank you, Randy. Chuck, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mona?
Yeah, have you required your staff to be vaccinated as well?
I wish I could. It would be very difficult to do that. 75% of our employees have been vaccinated. We have done education constantly on the benefits of the vaccine. We have the most wonderful medical director, Kelly Rose from Tri-Valley, who has provided, we've done TV interviews with her of all the positive, all the, answered questions anybody had about the vaccine. The science on the vaccine is really good. I mean, it's really, really positive. There aren't many negative components about it. And yet I think the year of negative publicity on TV about the vaccine has made people leery of it. I couldn't wait to get it. And I was lucky to be one of the first, on day one, all employees were allowed to get it. And we had quite a few do. So we have 240 employees. We've had over 175, I think, vaccinated, and we continue to do education. Now we're going to isolate one by one the employees who haven't gotten it, speak to them. Some are medical reasons, but a lot are just fear of some of what is in the press. And quite honestly, it's so hard to hire right now, partly because of all the wonderful unemployment benefits that people are getting. It's more lucrative to stay home and not work than it is to go get a job. And so if we would be able to hire and fill jobs, then maybe we could be more strict and say, you can't come in if you don't have a vaccine. But now the fact that all the residents had the ability to get vaccinated and all skilled nursing residents did get vaccinated and all but 2 personal care residents got vaccinated, and that was their choice not to, that does make me feel as if the residents are safe, even though the state was making us shut them down again. The fact is that if they did get COVID, they would have very few symptoms. They would not die. They would not have a severe illness after being vaccinated. So now just, I think yesterday or the day before, we're beginning to get new regulations that we won't have to shut down everything again. If we do, it'll be for a day or 2 as we analyze it. It won't be just, okay, now because one person tested positive, you have to shut down for 5 weeks again. We won't have to do that, I don't think.
Part of the reason I asked is because I used to work at the Abramson Center, and certainly flu shots were required of employees. If you didn't have a flu shot, you weren't allowed to work there, or you weren't allowed to work during flu season. So I was curious in terms of whether or not you had restrictions that way, because it certainly does make a difference in terms of what comes in and out of nursing facilities.
I think we'll get there. I think while it's still emergency authorization for the vaccine, it's hard to do that. There could be legal challenges to that. We have had legal advice that we probably could do it, but we could be challenged. And the truth is, if I had 25% of my employees say, I'm not getting it, I'm leaving, I wouldn't be able to operate.
Right.
I absolutely positively need those people. And you know what? Some of them are really good employees who really care a lot. It's
Yeah.
not like they're terrible people or anything. For whatever reason, they're scared, and I need to help them through that.
I agree.
Mhm. All right. Mark? Mhm.
I'm at Advent Lutheran Church, where we have a whole bunch of your members. And the thing I keep hearing is about the communication and how wonderful it has been, how positive it has been, how they feel informed. And I was just curious, as you talked about doing that, how has that made a difference to your role as CEO there? I mean, I would imagine you've got a lot more connections. Even if you don't know them, they know you in a different way than they did before.
I think that before COVID, I'd have CEO chats and I'd have 120 people come to one chat in one building, and we'd have a great time together, laughing and answering questions. And so that was terrible to not have that. And so when we finally created the ability to have people call in, I think I was surprised to hear at some point that it wasn't just residential living residents watching, that skilled nursing residents knew when it was and were tuning in, and personal care and employees would huddle in rooms that the TV was on and watch. And so I started realizing, wow, this is really, really important to people, and we need to continue this and expand it. And then, so it wasn't, and then we figured out we needed to have the Zoom for families. And that has been really critical, because as some of the tough decisions came about in terms of shutting down again, that's not something you want to communicate through an email, or, I mean, you want to talk and you want to answer questions and have people voice their frustration. I mean, we were frustrated. And quite honestly, I voiced how angry I was at the Department of Health because we weren't getting vaccines. There was enough vaccine available that all nursing homes in the United States could have had vaccine in December. And we were being told we could not get vaccine for personal care. We could not. And I voiced how angry I was on one of our family Zooms. And one of the family members called NBC Channel 10 in Philadelphia, and they called and asked me if I would do an interview. And I said, absolutely. Well, they came to the campus a couple hours later, and they called CVS, who was telling me I couldn't get it. Well, within a couple hours, I had a date that I was getting the vaccine for all residents on the campus. So there were lots of, and that really was everything. And I testified for the state Senate committee on joint committee on health, on seniors, and I think youth, actually, seniors and youth. I don't know why that's on the same committee. But about how frustrating it has been that the state did a really bad job of rolling out the vaccines. They only allocated 17% to long-term care facilities across the state, when that's where everyone was dying. Why didn't they just, get FEMA involved and roll it out, get it done, and move on? But yeah, sometimes you have to get press involved, and sometimes it helps.
Yes. Are there, I do have a question. Are there new processes that you guys are working on since? Sound like you had the grocery store going on at the height of the pandemic. Are you going to keep that open?
We still have been doing some orders. They've gone down tremendously to almost nothing. So, and we're still doing takeout meals, although that continues to decline. Most people are beginning to come out for meals again to different restaurants. You know, every day we're really evaluating what is great for people. We did start driving to the grocery stores again. I think March 1st is when everyone was fully vaccinated. So March 1st, we started trips to Giant, trips to Hennings, all of those things again. We're thinking the banks are going to open in a week or two as soon as the teller is fully vaccinated. So we do have to continue to evaluate everything we offer constantly to figure out still how to move through this. But one of the things that was a tremendous new discovery we made last year was we opened the pavilion in the summer as a restaurant because people couldn't eat indoors and they were sick of takeout, as I would be, takeout. How much takeout can you do? So we decided if we had an outdoor venue that people could sit down and have meals together. And it were ever so big, we'd have like 110 people. And we were able to spread them out in the field. And, you know, it looked like a trailer park. Tables that we got from all different places, none of them matched, tents that were falling down, but it did the job and people really enjoyed it. And it went so well that now we're working on remodeling the pavilion and building an expansion on it so we can actually use it as a year-round fun dining venue that's sort of like an entertainment complex. So we learned some new things through this.
That's great.
Hi,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Hi, Suzanne. This is Marcia. One last question, and I know our Telford Chief of Police, who's on this call, has done this. With all the things you've had to do because of the pandemic, has it all been documented so that if this ever happens again, you know, say 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, that it's sort of a plan for the next coming up staff and residents have to go on?
Well, we're actually, because we're so heavily regulated, that we do keep extensive documentation, and we have files that every day as we create a new COVID policy regarding anything, we timeline it in the file. So if anybody wanted to see the entire progression of everything we put in place and when we updated and changed, yes, we have pretty extensive records on and all of that. And at some point when the state comes back in to inspect us for our skilled nursing, they'll probably look at all those files because we're required to really keep very, very extensive files on all of that.
Excellent. Mohana, you had a question?
Yeah, Suzanne, thank you very much for all the information you have provided. It was definitely a different experience for all of us, you know, for a whole year. And 2 days back, I got up a couple of times, not only once time on the Thursday and Friday morning, I had same time I got up, and the date was 3:13, and the time was 3:13, and on 3:13 morning, I also got up at 3:13. I don't know why. And on that same morning, 3:13, was Dr. Valerie Akrush came on TV news, and she gave that announcement. And I said, okay, why I got up 2 days? What is the meaning of 3:13? I got up at the same time. So it was little different. We don't believe in all these things, but there is something behind it. But I just want to let you know that I attended the flower show at Peter Becker, and I enjoyed so much. I don't think this year it would be, but I called that time, and that time it was not announced COVID situation, but before that I called and they said we might not have this year, not because of COVID, but you already canceled it. So do you think that flower show will be again back, reimagine flower show?
Well, the truth is that had we had the flower show last year, the flower show would have opened the day the campus shut down. So we would have spent 2 months getting ready for the flower show, go through about $25,000 worth of expenses, and had no flower show and had to figure out how during a pandemic to clean it up.
Absolutely.
And we had already decided not to have the flower show. A lot of people thought it was a fundraiser, but the truth is it wasn't. It cost us a lot of money to operate that flower show.
Correct.
And some of the fundraising we did, you know, from the sales at the door and stuff, helped to pay for some of the expenses. But we really think we have to create something new. We're about to open a new thrift store, furniture store, and a huge new wood shop. We're looking forward to having a grand opening of that coming up very soon.
That's nice.
The building is done, and so a lot of energy is going into that. When I drive by, it's right on Schoolhouse Road, the corner of Schoolhouse and Crescent Lane. When I drive by, I see 10, 12 cars there. Everybody's working, trying to install cabinets and things in the store and get it ready to go. So I hope that the energy comes a lot of it into that and into other new things. But the flower show attendance had started to decline every year, and yet it was taking, and actually some of the residents were no longer able to build some of the things, so we had to have employees do it. So it just got really crazy to do.
Right.
It was fun though. It absolutely was fun.
Do you need in future, do you need volunteers for that event?
We absolutely always need volunteers. Our volunteers are very, very special. Yes.
But then
So
in that case, volunteers need to be vaccinated before they come, before they apply.
we are helping to vaccinate volunteers. We got through the federal vaccination process. CVS was doing that. We're done. But now our own pharmacy, which is not a retail pharmacy, one that serves our campus, has applied for vaccine. And we will begin to take the names of any volunteer and get everyone vaccinated through that system.
Oh,
So,
thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you for your service. Very nice.
Thank you.
Those were good questions, Moana. And I have one last thing that I'd like to mention. Pre-COVID, we used to have our meetings at Peter Becker. So hopefully when the dust settles, we'll be back there with you guys. So, and if you need volunteers, we have a connection inside of Peter Becker. And I'm sure Mr. Moss could let us know what opportunities are available. And we have a very vibrant club, definitely. We have a very vibrant club, and we step up to help wherever we're needed. So thank you. Thanks once again for spending time with us, Suzanne. Let's give Suzanne a hand if you want to do it physically or, all right.
Thank you. It was good to see you all.
Thanks a lot. All right. If you want to hang on, you can. We have a few things.
I have another meeting coming up. I'm going to prepare for. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Thanks
again.
Thanks.
All right. That was great. And I'm going to stop the video. We have a few different cool things that we'd like to talk about, including brags and sags. I know there's one special one that someone wanted to mention. This has been another awesome meeting. We almost had 30 people on. Chuck, did you get everyone that was on? Okay, cool. I'll stop the recording. It's stopping now. Oops. Sorry. So we're going to go into our brags and sags. We have about 15 minutes. I think the last time we had, we did a debrief. So our first person for brags and sags was Lynn Ruth.
Yeah, I think I got a nice story here that some of you longtime members would appreciate, and some of the recent ones too. Last week, we spent a week in Myrtle Beach, but